Good afternoon, everybody. Still a few people filing in, but we can probably kick off. So my name is Stephen Hewlett-Lights, and I'm the head of product at FinTrU. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about some of the work we're doing currently on combining AI and people to deliver more effective know your customer processes for some of our clients. So quickly, a little bit about FinTrU to begin with. So we're about 10 years old. We are effectively an outsourced managed services company. We provide both technology solutions and people into some of the world's biggest banks, about 18 or 19 or so clients at the moment. And we have roughly 40 to 50 projects going on across those different clients. And that's everything from back office operations, so particularly KYC, credit risk, legal repapering, and so on. And predominantly our client base in our space is in investment banking and wealth management, a little bit of retail along there as well. So how did we develop TrU Label? The first thing we did, looked at the market. Annotation is nothing new for anybody that's been involved in this side of technology for any period of time. But we looked at the different solutions that were available in the market, and none of them quite did what we needed them to do. So some solutions very good at being able to highlight information, annotate it in different ways, potentially even annotate it for the purposes of building models, but didn't quite hit the mark in terms of also needing to have a compliance angle to it. So we needed something that could both train an AI, but also could be used to generate a client output that could stand up to an audit log or an audit record for a bank. So we had to design our own annotation and QA experience all the way through. And you've got a couple of examples on the screen there. Now, that required us to develop our own AI as well. So we started with the more traditional machine learning capabilities, and we've been building through there. But if you go just down the machine learning route, you're looking at document by document or data point by data point. And so we've started increasingly to use more generalizable solutions that will allow us to easily span across different document types and even to be able to react and to kind of be able to exist with different document formats that we've never seen before as a document type changes. And I'm thinking about document types here like annual reports of a company, okay, that they might publish on their website. Some questionnaires that get published in different registries are very set and very rigid, but often these documents are very unstructured. So the first two things that we were able to do with those models that we've developed, first is classification, which is very important because if you're going to have, say, 150 things that you need to find, first thing is knowing which document you're looking at tells you which of the 150 things you're most likely to try and want to find. So the classification model looks at the content of the document, reads the text inside that, and then converts that into this is one of those, and then we can then link that to, therefore, I need to find these 8, not all 150, which gives us a much better chance of not having a whole load of false positives. And then the extraction point. Now, this is where the people come in as well. So for us, trying to get to 100% accuracy with the machine learning and the AI that we've created and that we're using, kind of doesn't make sense, okay? So there's a lot of false positives and a lot of false advertising in AI. A lot of it works really well, but there's always going to be an error bar. There's always going to be something that it gets wrong. There's always going to be something that it doesn't quite manage to find. And so for us, we underpin that and underwrite that with skilled people. So the game for us is about how do we run that AI capability across those documents, find as much as we can, and then surface that to a skilled person in the team who can then very quickly review it, say yes, no, and move on. Okay, so we start to introduce some of those efficiencies. And for us, those efficiencies are upward of 50, 60, 70% in terms of the end-to-end annotation time. And that's where we're shooting for. The whole thing is underpinned with our friends at Bizagi. So they've helped us with the workflow capability and kind of automation of those processes. So when we're setting up work queues for people as documents come in, they're ingested, they're processed through that workflow, and they're pushed into the queues of both annotators and the quality control people. That's then pushed into all the way through from a workflow perspective by Bizagi, and then that's then pushed out the other end into a client pack, which is then sent on to the end bank. We have an industry-leading OCR in there as well, so we made sensible choices around what to build, what not to build. OCR was on the category of don't build that ourselves, and again, we're leveraging some of the industry-leading technologies there. And the whole thing is in a cloud-based architecture. It's in Azure. So the reason that we picked Azure and we put it together in that sense is because we wanted to be able to connect into the enterprise architectures that we were looking at from the bank side. And if you think about things like single sign-on, authentication, even connecting into upstream systems, a lot of that goes through Microsoft architectures these days. It's also compatible with a lot of the AWS stuff that we run into as well. So it just made sense for us to do it in that way. Now, it allows us to leverage things that are already standard and out of the box in those solutions whilst being able to build our own stuff where it matters. So from that side of things, very, very, very kind of sensible choices that we tried to make there. If you look at the value and where does the value of the product come from? So there's a couple of key things here. And if you look at the big orange wavy line, that's typically how an annual refresh cycle would work in KYC. Okay, you start at the beginning of the year, you figure out how who you need to do your kind of KYC on in your bank. And typically that might be all high-risk cases every year, medium cases every 3 years, low-risk cases every 5. But you figure out who you need to work on, and that takes you a bit of time. Then once you get into the process, you then have this big lump in the middle, lots of activity going on, lots of people running around, and then you have a long tail at the back end that probably actually runs into the following year as well as you close off the final few cases. What TrU Label allows us to do is it allows us to take the headcount issue out of the process. Okay, so we can scale up and scale down very fast. So we can do the gathering piece at the very beginning, do it much earlier, do it on the whole population, pull all of those documents in the first year, get them all annotated and get the client to a point of determination, which means I now know what I need to do with my client, and outreach, i.e. I need to go out to my client and get more information. We can get them there much earlier in the year and they can start that process and tail off much quicker. But the second year is where the value really comes in, because in the second year, we've retained the information that we had from last year, and we now have a document expiry date for every document that we hold on the system, and we can then go out and automatically refresh that document as a new one becomes available. So an annual report is the easy one because it comes up every year, and you know the published date, therefore you know when that company is likely to publish their next one, and you can poll the registry to pull in the new one when it comes out, or poll their website to pull in the document once it's available. And again, we'll do that as automatically as possible, but for some things that you can't automate, we have people who can go and do it. So we can push those notifications and through the workflow and have somebody go to the company's website and pull the latest report and push it back through the system. So again, we can start to give new information back to the bank in a more drip-fed approach as opposed to one that kind of looks like the same thing again every year. And the whole point there is that we're refreshing the client information as new data becomes available, which means instead of waiting till September, because that's when you did your refresh on that client last year, new information about the structure of that company became available in February, you now get to that conversation, get to that information much, much sooner, and you lower your risk profile. So where do we go next? Well, there's a few things for us. So firstly is expanding the TrU Label product. So obviously we have our own roadmap and feature roadmap that we're developing out at the moment. We are very close to kind of coming out with some announcements fairly soon around kind of clients and who's going to be onboarding into that. But in terms of expanding out the product, there are more use cases in both credit risk and legal, where the very similar processes are done for particularly in investment banking to kind of KYC, and we can join those dots together. And then there are also additional products that we're developing off the back of the data that we're collecting inside of that process that can be used by other parts of the CLM ecosystem. Connecting to the ecosystem is then also a key point. So again, connecting into other applications that the bank has, but also connecting to other products that we've built. We built our own outreach product as well, and that allows us to pull in documents from the client, and again, connecting all that together so we can push that all into the same database. And then the final point is around enhancing our partnerships. So we spent a lot of time and energy this year with people like Bizagi and then kind of building out that capability, building out that baseline partnership as well. And as we go into next year, one big thing we're going to be doing is how do we enhance and leverage that a bit more? How do we gain more automation from the technologies that we've put in place? And how do we start to, kind of accelerate from maybe 50, 60% to starting to push the boundaries of 70, 80% in terms of some of those efficiencies? Thank you very much for taking your lunchtime. Come listen to me talk about that. I will be hanging around for the next few hours today and tomorrow. So if you have any questions, if there's anything you want to kind of get into, then please do come see me. Please come tap me on the shoulder. Otherwise, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the conference.